Indian River Walk-In Clinic Miracle Mile has been a sponsor of this broadcast for over a decade. Why? I love endorsing them, because you'll get the right care right now. Recently had a family member, came to town, a young grandson. Turned out he had strep throat. We found out right away because we sent him to Indian River Walk-In Clinic at Miracle Mile, and everything was corrected and came out well, and he's doing fine now, I'm happy to say. Indian River Walk-In Clinic. The right care, right now, Miracle Mile.
It's 2:30 in the morning. Someone is trying to break in, but your security system from Complete Electric and Alarm is working. Your home's on lockdown, security cameras are rolling, and the authorities are already on their way. That's the security of Complete Electric and Alarm. The best security money can buy. Call 388-0533. That's 388-0533. Online at CompleteElectricInc.com. Complete Electric and Alarm, Florida's premier alarm service.
Do you have experience in radio sales? We're looking for someone to sell advertising on our morning broadcast. Give us a call at 772-473-7777. 473-7777. Only experience need apply.
What do New Beauty Magazine, Castle Connolly, and OatMD have in common? They have all consistently named board-certified plastic surgeon Dr. Alan Durkin as one of the best doctors in America. This private beachside medical office and chic med spa cannot be equaled. Ocean Drive Plastic Surgery offers surgical and non-surgical facial rejuvenation, body contouring, cosmetic breast surgery, laser skin resurfacing, hydrotherapy, massages, a steam room, and private overnight suites. There's no place more perfect than Ocean Drive Plastic Surgery. Visit oceandriveplasticsurgery.com to schedule your consultation today.
Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the Airwaves, is ready to go. Talking to people you want to know. Face to face, one-on-one. Get the story and have some fun with Rhett Palmer.
And now, the most trusted name in radio, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the Airwaves.
All right. If the subject of adoption interests you, this is a show that you don't want to miss today. This is the mayor of the Airways, Rhett Palmer. Now, he was missing in action all of my life, and he is a godsend. I lost my only brother on 911. Well, he showed up at the door. About, 9 months ago, James?
It's going to be a year, October 18th.
And he found us through Ancestry.com. Was that it, or how did you find us?
I found my mom through Ancestry.com. I found a second cousin, two second cousins. One wouldn't talk to me, the other did, and I had enough information eventually to find my mom, and it wasn't that difficult of a search. But I didn't have information about my natural father. So I continued, and I did another DNA test, 23andme.com, which led me to find my sister Cece. So that was quite a shock that morning to sit down with my cup of coffee to check email and learn that I had another sister in this world.
That's totally cool, huh?
Yeah, and then I had an uncle, and we just find each other. It's been an amazing journey.
Everything can't be good,
No, it isn't. I didn't get to meet my father.
Yes.
I didn't get to meet my grandparents, many of them. I have one grandmother still alive, and I'm thankful that I get to see her.
No, I said, when you said you found your uncle, I said everything can't be good,
Well, I get it, yeah.
You get it. All right. So, James, of course, came into my life a short time ago. By the way, my co-host today is Beverly Osler.
Good morning. Coffee's ready.
And she is our concierge of the Airways.
I just want to ask your nephew something. Aren't you pleased to find that you have such an interesting uncle?
Beverly, I can't tell you how, there's a lot of twists and turns in my story, but I'm extremely fortunate to find the uncle I did and the siblings I have and the mother I have. It's through the roof amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And you'll find out later on today's broadcast that both his adopted father died when he was in his early teens, which broke his heart because they really had a super connection and a super love for each other. And then he lost his adopted mother a while back. So here he is. Now he's got Uncle Tom and Aunt Pat and their son Matthew, who's a very successful doctor don't say me, Courtney, and then we've got Miles, the little boy, and Courtney is the mom. Miles, the little boy, and then we have
Madeline.
Hold on, Maddie. Maddie is the little girl, a little bit older than her brother, and they were just down to visit us, by the way. And I have visited with John. We flew out. James and I flew out together to Portland, Oregon, and we met there and met with Cece, his half sister, for the first time, and we all had a family reunion. And don't play Hank Williams Jr.'s family reunion. It's not appropriate. Well, hey, why do we smoke? Why do we drink? Why do we toke? It's family tradition. Anyway, so James has his beautiful wife, who is Liz, and then he has a son named Jimmy, after him, James. That's the older son. The younger one is Luke. And ironically, my brother's daughter, Cece Cummins, out there in Portland, she's married to Joel, who we get along famously with, and they have a son named Jonah and a son named Elijah, and they're the exact same ages as your sons, right, James?
Days apart, I think. Eli and Luke are weeks apart, like a week or so, and Jonah and Jimmy are about a month apart.
Amazing. So, now, today we're going to talk also with Karen Wilson-Buterbaugh. She's on the line. Good morning, Karen. Are you there?
Yes, good morning. I'm here, Rhett.
Great to have you here. She is an author, but before she's an author, she was an unwed mother, and the title of her book is The Baby Scoop Era, Unwed Mothers, Infant Adoption, and Forced Surrender. Forced Surrender. So the both of you want to see the whole adoption. First of all, it has been infected by greed, of course, right? And we're going to talk about that today. And also, most importantly, to James, I know, is that he feels extremely wounded because the government steps in and takes away his rights as an American citizen to be able to find his lineage. The government was of no help during this process for you to find us. Is that correct, James?
They prohibit our ability in most states to getting our original birth certificate. You know, I lived 46 years. One of my coping mechanisms was to live in an adoption pause, is what they call that, where you don't really process what your situation is, and you don't consciously think about it. And I always looked at my birth certificate and never realized it wasn't real. It was a fake birth certificate, and we are not permitted as adoptees to access our real birth certificates with the proper information about our lineage.
I wonder why this is. Why would they want to keep that information hidden from the adoptee, you know, or the adoptor? Right.
Well, the old mindset was that they were supposed to be able to take a baby from an unwed mother, pick that child up, put him in another family, and wonderful, instantly you have a new family. You know, and I did have a wonderful adopted family, but you just can't transplant a child. There's still the DNA and the lineage and the connection to the biological family.
Now, my brother not only had you as a child. I mean, had you with of course. It's a long story, but Linda was a friend of mine and her girlfriend Dee Dee. They were 19 and 21 respectively. Linda was 19. They lived around the corner for us near Vassar College, and we all became friends. Well, it took a couple of years, but or maybe I don't know how long it was, but anyway, my brother became extremely friendly with Linda. And they actually moved into each other and cohabitated for about a year. And it was the year 1969, the year of Woodstock. And Linda was with me and my brother and 5 or 6 of my other friends at Woodstock, the original Woodstock in 1969. And I was never told of her pregnancy, to the best of my recollection. I know me, and the idea that I had a nephew on the earth, I would have certainly remembered it, and had my mother known, she would have done everything by hook or crook to have James in our family. That's the way she is. And we also found out that prior to that, when he was 17, he impregnated a little Jewish girl in upstate New York. Now, this was the Dorfman family, and they ran the Jewish Community Center. Well, back then in the 60s, you know, if you had a child out of wedlock, matter of fact, the family actually left Poughkeepsie in disgrace because they ran the Jewish community center. Now, whether the population there disgraced them or it was just internal disgrace, they moved out of town, and they sent the daughter, Debbie, off to Florida. Remember, this is upstate New York, Poughkeepsie, New York. Sent the daughter off to Florida to live in a home for unwed mothers and to give up her child. Specified a Jewish family, but they did not have to be Orthodox, but a Jewish family, and she was adopted, and she was brought up very finely, and she's very artistic, very much my brother's daughter, but years later she wanted to find us, and she was attempting to find my brother while he was still alive, but the mother, Debbie, wouldn't give forth the proper information, withheld it about my brother, and then by the time she did relent and give it to Cece, my brother had drowned on 911. He was in Beaufort, South Carolina on his sailboat, and he had seen he'd rowed over, he was moored out in the water, rowed over to another boat, watched the attack, and went nuts. And he had his challenges with alcohol, and mistakenly this guy turned off the TV to calm my brother down, put on classical music, gave him a couple of vodka and tonics, and later on my brother rowed his dinghy back to his boat that was moored in Beaufort and in the waters, and apparently the boat was found attached to his sailing craft, and it was upside down, and his body washed ashore, and that would prohibit Cece or James from ever meeting their father. But since then, of course, this Ancestry.com has become a big thing. And I know I asked you this a little early on. How did you find us, James? Was it Ancestry.com? Was it that 23 thing? How did you locate us?
I guess you could call it a combination. They each work with independent databases. So I found my mom through Ancestry.com, through a second cousin DNA match. But her memory, the trauma that first mothers endure causes a lot of issues, and I think she shut down part of her mind about the situation that she went through. So she didn't have a lot of information to give me about my father. So I had to continue my search, which is why I went to 23andme.com, and Cece had contributed her DNA into that database, so I was able to make the connection there.
Okay, now I'm going to try to do a whole lot less talking. I've established my story here. Karen Wilson-Buterbaugh. And how do you spell your last name, Karen?
How do I spell it?
Yes.
B as in boy, Uterbaughh.
Okay, and how do you pronounce it correctly?
Buterbaugh.
Buterbaugh. And you have written
from Wilson to Buterbaugh when I got married.
Pardon me?
I said I went from Wilson to Buterbaugh when I got married.
Yeah, well, you should have stuck with Wilson.
Well, my husband wanted to take that name.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Yes, it's German, right?
The baby, and you've written the book, The Baby Scoop Era.
Right.
Unwed mothers, infant adoption, and forced surrender. Were you forced to give up your child?
When you are given one choice or one option instead of two or more, that is not a decision and that is not a choice. Mothers like me during the 50s and 60s, most of the time were not given any other alternative but surrender. Once you found yourself single and pregnant, at that time you were immediately, if you were in school, you were immediately expelled, and your parents shipped you off either to a maternity home or the home of a relative to hide you because of the enormous stigma that was present at the time. And you were, during that time, usually associated with an adoption worker, which to me is a very biased situation. And it was an expected thing. It was mandated that if you were pregnant and you were single, you would give up your baby, so to speak, for adoption. So, yes, coerced forced, surrendered as if a gun to the head situation whereby you had no other option because you were told repeatedly, and it was very much a mantra, that it was always the baby. You would not emotionally connect to the baby growing in your body. And you were told that you needed to surrender, or relinquish was the term, your baby to adoption to a married couple who could give the baby everything you could not. You were told that if you kept your baby, which was never even an option offered, you would cause that child to be labeled illegitimate, or the common term at the time, which was bastard, which would be horribly injuring to the baby.
Yeah, that's a pejorative term.
Yes.
Why is that a pejorative? Why is it so bad? I mean, it was a disgrace. It was a telltale sign of sin.
Absolutely.
Red letter on your back, so to speak.
Absolutely. It was exactly the scarlet letter. Back then, you just did not challenge the societal norms. If you did, then it was a punishment for you. And this was treatment that was very much planned and designated to punish you. When we were in a maternity home, for instance, I was in one in Washington, D.C., you weren't even allowed to use your full name. You had to go by first name, last initial. You couldn't have contact with any friends or anybody not on an approved list. You could not call anybody unless you had a dime for the payphone that wasn't on that approved list. So no boyfriends, no friends from school. It was all very much planned to remove you from all of your support systems.
Now, why is this? Because of the shame? Society's shame?
Yes, because of the shame and because of the very valuable commodity, which was our white newborn.
Okay, now hold on. You said commodity. So, I have found, after being a talk host for 24 years, if you follow the money, the footsteps will always lead you to generally to greed, and then debasement after greed, and corruption. So now I can look now. I'm going to try to play the devil's advocate, even though I don't like that term, and that is this: that if I adopted, let's say you fall in love with a baby, you adopt this child, you have to pay a lot of money to adopt this child, I presume, in most cases.
And in many cases, too, there were donations, which were very large amounts of money, too.
Made to who?
Oh, to religious agencies and churches related to religious adoptees. So
what do you call the adopted? You call the adoptee is the child, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you call in your circles? What do you call the parents that adopt the child?
We call them adopters.
Hold on. Okay, adopters. This is very easy. All right, adopt.
Which they don't like at all, but we don't like being called birth mothers either. So
you don't like being called birth mothers?
No, absolutely.
What are you called?
We are natural exiled mothers. Yes. We were exiled from our babies.
But hold on. Some people gave the babies up willingly.
In my 20 years of experience working in being an activist in adoption and being on many groups, there are very few, if any, mothers that I've come across that willingly surrendered their babies.
Really?
There may be some still in hiding.
Yeah. Okay.
That are under the misperception.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine. He made an enormous amount of wealth promoting Jamaican visits, vacations years ago, and he's taken his fortune. He's a highly educated Jamaican man, and he Catholic, very Catholic, and he never was able to have children. So if what we believe in eternity and Jesus, then he'll have quite an abundance of children up in heaven, because he buys billboards. I think there's, I don't know, like 100 billboards every month. If you're driving down the highway and you see those billboards that say, keep your child, keep your baby, don't have, another, they don't use the word abortion, but, don't destroy your child. I understand that, you said in all these years, you've never found a woman that gave up their child willingly, and
during the baby scoop era.
And now they say that women who have had abortions, that it comes back to haunt them. The boomerang effect years later. And so, wow, that's. And that's like, I don't know what this. I think the stats are like over 90% of the time they live in now. James, your mom. Now let's talk about Linda and your experience of finding.
Can I interject a thought here for a quick second?
Please.
And one of the things. So after I reunited, I needed a lot of support, and I wound up and I met Karen through some of the adoption support groups on Facebook. And one of the things that's constantly being corrected in those groups is when you're making a choice, it's either adoption or parenting. Abortion and adoption aren't your two choices. Abortion is not an alternative to adoption, and adoption is not an alternative to abortion, typically. The choice is whether or not you parent your child.
Right.
Okay, listen.
Once a woman makes the decision to go forward with her pregnancy, abortion is a moot issue.
Listen.
You either keep or you don't keep your baby.
Okay, I got to take a break. We're going to come back. Karen Wilson-Buterbaugh. The title of her book is The Baby Scoop Era, Unwed Mothers, Infant Adoption, Forced Surrender. Also, my nephew, who I didn't know existed, 46-year-old James Alfano. We'll continue to talk about this conversation on the other side of this break.